Montreal, Quebec, Canada, focusing on the information theory and wireless connections. We are honored to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Abhay. Two things I would request. One, you can call me Divyanshu, no need to call me sir. And secondly, I would recommend that please go ahead and introduce the other two speakers as well, because the three of us will kind of speak in continuity, and we'll go for more like a panel discussion format rather than each of one of us giving elaborate talks.
Okay.
So it would be better if people are introduced to all three of us at the same time. So go ahead and introduce Krishna and Jatin as well.
Okay, sir. We also have Krishna, sir, who belongs to the YO7 batch, graduated in Communications and Computer Engineering from LNMIIT Jaipur in 2011. He was the first elected chair president of the Student Gymkhana in 2009-10 and the chairman's gold medal recipient of being best all-rounder of the graduating batch in 2011. He is one of the few students of the LNMIIT who pursued the less traditional field of operations research after his BTech. Sir completed his master's in operations research from Simon Fraser University, Canada in 2014 and continued to his PhD in the same from the University of British Columbia, Canada. He completed his PhD in 2020 with the Best Doctoral Dissertation Award by Faculty of Forestry, UBC. In addition, his research received the prestigious Informs ENRE Best Publication Award in Natural Resources in 2021. Krishna sir is currently working as a senior operations engineer at Fraser Health Authority, Canada, developing advanced analytics tools to optimize healthcare operations. He aims to continue his research on operations research, optimization and analytics with applications to sustainability and healthcare. Apart from his professional career, sir is a practicing Indian classical musician. He has been training in Hindustani classical music for the past 15 years. Sir is currently one of the director of Pandit Jasraj School of Music Foundation, Canada. He enjoys organizing concerts and teaching Indian classical music at school. Sir also volunteers to perform at several charitable and fundraising events in Canada. We all welcome you, sir.
For the introduction, Abhay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you were saying something, Abhay.
Also, we have Jatin sir with us, an engineer by brain and a poet by heart at LNMIIT. Jatin sir spent more time in laboratories than in the library and won many hearts through his poetic expression and just being humble and friendly to everyone around him. He was hand-chosen among the cohort of 50 brightest minds of India for the founding batch of the prestigious Young India Fellowship. Within 1 year, he was acknowledged as the top 12 Asian innovators by Wall Street Journal for the V-Spurge haptic belt for the visual impaired. And then he represented India at the Health 2.0 World Cup and claimed second position against the teams of the rest of the world. Sir had completed his MS degree in CIS Embedded Systems from the University of Pennsylvania, USA in 2016. Jatin sir is an accomplished, innovative, hands-on artificial intelligence research leader with over 9 years of global business and startup experience. Currently, he is a research lead on the project Deep Ice at Microsoft Research Redmond. And sir has many patents and publications awarded to his name. We are glad to have you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhay.
Abhay, may I interrupt you, please, or may I add to what you have kindly made the introductions? So there are two little bits, if you will allow me to add to what you have said. One is we have a very, very special guest on our talk show today, and that is Professor Dheeraj Sanghi, our former director. He is also here. Sir, good evening and welcome to this show.
So nice to hear you, sir. And I saw the three people speaking today, and I said I must at least see their videos. I mean, I haven't met them, seen them for a long time.
No, it is such a pleasure to have you.
Sending me the link.
Thank you for joining this very, very interesting session. And these are people that you will know, of course, from your time here. So
yes.
A warm welcome to you. Professor Dheeraj Sanghi is one of our former directors for all our younger audience, people from Y 2019-21. The second point which I wanted to add is all the three, of course, are from YO7. And what is interesting is not only was Krishna the first president, elected president, but YO7 is the only batch which gave us two presidents. Devanshu himself was also president. The story is a little more interesting and will take too much time to explain just now. We'll talk about it later. But Krishna was president in his third year, and Devanshu was the president in the fourth year. So we have two presidents amongst us, and we have Professor Dheeraj Sanghi with us. And Jatin, of course, with his very, very interesting multilateral career that he's had. Jatin, it's been long since I've actually interacted with you, but really looking forward to your adding all the mirch masala to the two presidents. So we have all the president's men here, and back to you, Abhay, back to the three speakers. Thank you.
Okay.
I also thank Professor Sanghi for joining us. Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you for joining,
thank you.
Sanghi, sir.
Yeah,
Divyanshu.
thank you, Abhay, on behalf of all three of us for the elaborate introduction which you provided. And Professor Dheeraj Sanghi, special thank you for you also for joining. It's nice to hear you after such a long time. And today, once you'll hear me and particularly Krishna talking, you'll hear certain points which we learned from you only. And when me and Krishna were discussing, we were talking, okay, let's quote Professor Sanghi, and this is what he taught us. So let's quote him. So it's good to have you here as well. As I said, I'll apologize beforehand from the entire audience that I'm not keeping very well. So I won't be able to give a long talk or anything, but there are certain things, certain key ideas, which I always keep in mind once I'm evaluating my career options and things like that, which I would like to share with you, which might be helpful with some of you. So I'll take like 5-10 minutes to elaborate on that. And then Krishna and Jatin will share their ideas, and then we can have a more like a panel discussion format where we can ask each other questions, and anybody in the audience, if they have any question, any concern, anything which they feel that we can help them with, they can raise that up. So that would be pretty much the format of the talk. So
let me share my screen, Divyanshu.
So yeah, Krishna, can you share your screen? Because I don't have a screen with me. Okay. So to begin with, let me confess, the question is, go to the previous slide itself, the main question. The main question is that how to choose the right career. Let me confess on behalf of all three of us that none of us can give an answer, an accurate answer to this question. It's almost very difficult, and it highly depends on an individual state, and that state also keeps evolving. As Abhay introduced, Abhay told in my introduction itself, I have myself had quite a bit of changes in the kind of job that I did. I first worked in a semi-PSU, then I went for a proper research-based master's, then an industry job in wireless sector. Then I got bored with that and I switched to research PhD, and now I'm looking for a career in academia as a professor, which I hope I'll be able to accomplish in next 1 year or so. So things have been evolving. At every point of time, I keep asking myself certain questions which help me direct what should be my next step. And is this the career that I want? And for that, there is a concept, there's a Japanese concept which has really helped me. I hope many of you must have heard of it, but I would still like to emphasize it here. So Krishna, can you go to the next slide? So there's this Japanese concept called Ikigai. It's a Venn diagram, and all of us are engineers here, so I'm sure you all will understand. Whenever you are at a stage where you want to question whether this is something you want to do, or you want to continue to, or this is something you want to enter, we are supposed to ask 4 basic questions from us. Is this something that you love doing? Is this something that you're good at? Is this something that you can be paid for? And is this something what the world needs? Now, all 4 questions are really crucial, and it is only with the intersection of all these 4 that you will say that, okay, this is maybe the right choice. And mind you, that right choice will also be evolving over the time. So let's try to understand this diagram very carefully. Most of us are in a state where we do something that we are good at and we are getting paid for. That is what is called, in general terms, a profession. So yes, once you graduate from LNMIT, you all will have a profession, you'll be paid at it, and it will be fine. But it is very difficult at the very beginning stage to find something which you love also and which the world needs at the same time. So after a certain point of time, a profession will make you comfortable, but will still add a feeling of emptiness, as they say, because you're doing something which is not needed. It's a typical example is a 9 to 5 job where you go and you work. You are just a small component in a major company where you don't think that you matter enough. So if you're satisfied at the profession level, for sure, in due course of time, you will get frustrated. You will not be happy with the chosen career, so to say. Alternately, you may have something which you love and you're good at. But then what if you're not being paid for it? Say, since AP Singh sir is here, let me give cricket example. Suppose you really love playing cricket and you're really good at it also, but you can't get paid for it. So if you are at a stage where you are at the intersection of what you love and what you're good at, then you have identified your passion, but you have not been able to convert it into profession. And in that case, what you need is a better marketing of your skill so that you can finally get paid for it. Then there are many people who know what they love, and those are the things which the world needs also. That becomes a mission in the sense that, say, I may say that I care a lot for climate change issues, and of course the world needs it, but I don't know anything about it. I don't have any skill to get a job or get anything in that field. So that just becomes a mere mission. Alternately, you can have something which the world needs and what you can get paid for also, which is called vocation. A typical example for vocation would be, say, a professor. And with full due respect to all the professors here, the professors here are really good, but there are professors who are not good at what they do. And this can be testified based on their students' feedback. And they don't even love what they're doing because they're just teaching it for the sake of money. So yes, they get paid for it and the world needs it, but they're not very good at it. So that also doesn't help in choosing your own career. It is only when you have an intersection of all these four, then you reach the center point, which in the Japanese philosophy is called Ikigai. And the Westerner philosophers have used this more in terms of choosing your dream career. Now, as I said in the beginning, it is important to note that all these things are evolving over the time. So supposing at this stage of point, I decide that, okay, I have found something which I love, I'm good at, I am being paid for, and the world needs it also. Then does it mean that that's it? That's the full stop for my career growth and my attempt to evolve further in life? Then that the clear answer is definitely no, because all these four things will change over the time. What I love today, if I keep doing it on a daily basis, there will be a time in, say, 1 year, 2 year, 10 year, that I'll get extremely bored of it. What I'm being paid for, I might be getting paid right now, but that particular skill may become so redundant that in future I'll not be paid for that particular skill. What I'm good at will also change, because there might be more skills which are needed to continue the same job in a different format. And what the world needs definitely changes, because, as technology advances, so the requirements of any job particularly changes. So all these four aspects are continuously evolving. So one thing which I have found useful in my own life is that at any given point of time, I question all these four things. And if I don't find a satisfactory answer, I try to think what is the next step that I should take. This might help some of you if you keep these things in mind. Having said that, this is more of in a philosophical sense, how I feel one should choose career. You guys are mostly undergraduate students, and I understand that most of your immediate concerns would be things like how to get a job, how to get a good salary, whether to take internships, whether to go for higher studies, what field to choose. Like, do you want to go for civil services, a technical job, higher studies, a research-based job, or joining some PSUs, giving GATE exam, these sort of things. So going any further in the talk and talking about those aspects, it would be useful for us to get an idea of the current audience, that what is the current audience right now here? What does the current audience think about their career options right now? What do they want to do? And for that, I think Krishna shared a poll question with Abhay. So Abhay, is it possible for you to share that poll with the students currently attending the session and then we can have a quick poll, because the
Yes, sir.
answer to
Yes,
that
sir.
poll, the answer to that survey will actually help all three of us direct the further course of discussion.
Yes, sir. Shall I share it now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So Abhay just shared a quick question that after you graduate from LNMIT, what is the career option that you are particularly aiming for? And it would be helpful if all the students present here can give a quick answer to that. So I do see almost, okay, almost 50% of you have answered, and most of you are looking for a full-time technical job, which was expected. So 60% people have answered. I think it's more or less most of the students have answered here. We have more than 50 responses. If there anybody else who wants to respond, please do so. I'll wait for another 10 seconds and then maybe we can end the poll. So yeah, we have I think 65% response, which is more or less I think most of the undergrad students would have answered. So yeah, the survey says that 45% of you are looking for a full-time technical job. 18% are looking for pursuing a master's degree by research or by just a technical degree. So you can say around 25% are looking for a master's degree. Very surprising that only 7% of you are looking at an MBA or other things, right? At an MBA or a management degree right now. And 21% are talking about entrepreneurship. So that's an interesting mix. Of course, the majority still remain that everybody is looking for a full technical job, which is good. So, okay, let me go back to my screen. So since most of you are looking for a full-time technical job as a career option, later on in the talk, I think Jatin will give more insight. One second, I think something. Yeah, later on in the talk, I think Jatin and Krishna will give more insights into that particular field when you are looking for full-time technical jobs. I would like to hand over to them with one last comment on my side, and that is the following. I understand that most of you are looking for full-time technical jobs right now, but know this, that bachelor's degree in engineering should be used more as a platform to explore what is your interest rather than just being tied to what you have already started doing. And this is something which I was quoting Professor Dheeraj Sanghi earlier, that he conveyed to me and Krishna once. We asked him a question that why do we have so many electives in HSS? Why do we have to do 6 electives in HSS necessarily when we are an engineering student? And he told us that the undergrad curriculum should be wide enough so that students get the taste of different kind of fields, different things that they can learn, and different areas which they can pursue. Most of us, when we are in 11th and 12th, we go for engineering. At least I can speak for 50% of the students for sure. We go for engineering because that's the general norm. That's what peers around us, maybe our parents and our neighbors, relatives, they all tell us that, hey, go for engineering or medical, this and that. And we just blindly come into engineering without knowing what exactly is our interest. I personally have noticed that this remains true even by the end of the BTech. There are many students who would even complete their entire BTech and they would still just do things because that's the norm. That's what everybody is doing. So we are doing the same thing. Even when students try to go for research and for higher studies, they do that because others are doing. What field they are choosing? Okay, they'll just go for certain buzzwords because others are talking about those buzzwords. So let's just get into that. So this is a pitfall which I would recommend undergrad students at a very early stage to avoid. Whatever you are doing right now, try to do it as best as you can, for sure. But try to explore and discover many different aspects, many different fields and areas. Don't just confine yourself to a particular field because that's what I just entered. Now, this is what I have to spend my entire career into. No, career evolves. There are many examples of LNMIT students itself who actually explored their interests outside the usual technical field that the BTech curriculum can maybe offer you. A prime example being one of my seniors from Y06 batch, Ankit Singhvi. He started his own event management company, and how he figured out his interest while during the BTech, he was the Vivacity coordinator. I'm sure you all know what Vivacity is. Just from the event coordination there, he got so interested in that work that he figured out that this is where he wants to pursue a career. So he is an entrepreneur today. He has his own company, and it's a very well-established company. Similarly, you have Dhiya Vasu Bhaduria from Y12 or Y13, I think. He started a photography company based on the same thing. One of my very close friends, Vipin Toshniwal, who from Y10 batch, in undergraduate, you can call him an average student, an average by the academic standards, like in terms of the CPI. But he was really exceptional in certain different aspects, that he was very creative in arts and crafts and creative things. So after completing his BTech, he was in an electronics and communication quote unquote job. For 1 year, he was heavily frustrated with the job. Then somebody recommended him that he should pursue a master's degree in design. So he did that from IIIT Jabalpur. And now he's a graphic design engineer, and he's extremely happy with what he's doing. So he found what he loves, he's getting paid for it, and he's good at it also. So of course, he still needs to figure out something what the world needs in the Ikigai principle. And I think that part is the trickiest in this Ikigai diagram. So that will come only over the time. But the main idea that I want to convey is that do not confine yourself with whatever choices you have made right now itself. If you have entered into something, try to give your best, but keep the mind open to explore different ideas and different avenues and discover new things. And on that note, I'll hand over to Krishna and Jatin to further explain more specific things regarding the poll results and regarding in general choices of career.
And I think I can stop sharing my screen because at least for now, it's going to be mostly a lot of conversation back and forth between Jatin and myself. And we'll have Divyanshu popping in between whenever he thinks he wants to add his opinion or has some ideas or questions. And the course of this conversation is going to be like this. I'm going to ask some questions from Jatin, because I've known Jatin for a very long time, but our fields have never overlapped. He was a very tech guy, almost if I may call him a geek, who spent most of his time in the laboratory. And once I think in third year, he suddenly came up at 1 a.m. at night to Divyanshu and me, and he showed, oh, I made a radio. I was like, what? We are having fun, discussing many things here, and you made a radio. And then, the antenna that he used, that was that kapde sukhane wala stand. That was the antenna that he used to. So I always had these questions for Jatin. How did you end up doing all those? So you also had the same courses that we took, the same math, electronics, or computers and data structures, algorithms. But how did you start doing all those? So I want to understand your story. So what is your story, Jatin?
Sure. Thanks, Mandati. So Krishna and I go a long way. We were friends like since very first semester, even Divyanshu. So some things went very different for me than rest of our batch. When I came to LNMIT, I wanted I was very serious about computer science because that was the buzzword, frankly. I did not know anything about engineering at all, like all of us. So computer science was that everyone was doing. So I came for computer science. When I came to LNMIT, in the very beginning, I found some super genius seniors and my batchmates who wanted to do something in robotics. I got very inspired. People are doing robotics in this college. So I approached my seniors, I talked to them, oh, how can I learn robotics? How can I write good code and all that? So from there, our journey kind of began. Then I got into contact with Mr. Deepak Nair sir, who is a professor right now in LNMIT. At that time, he was a master's student under Professor Saran. So that was the turning point for me in LNMIT in my experience journey, because till then I was doing a lot of courses. Coming from a vernacular background, it was kind of a journey just to, understand English and then understand the topics and then writing in those things into the exam. But I met Nair sir, and he gave me a very different flavor of engineering. He was very hands-on, DIY kind of person. He would make everything his own into the laboratories, and I started enjoying it. So I went to laboratory. He organized a small microcontroller camp, which I joined. I learned to program very tiny pieces of ICs and chips. And from there, I got into habit of making these kind of projects, radios, small robots, and all those. So that's how it all began. And then for rest of the next 3 years, I was always passionate about these kind of hardware projects. So I came for computer science, but I started loving electronics and embedded systems.
So what I take from this conversation is, just because you entered into computer science, you didn't block your vision. You were looking out for what's open, what are people doing in the college, on campus.
Yes,
and
of course.
and you didn't hesitate to go and talk to your seniors, and you didn't hesitate to go and talk to the faculty. Now there are two different things, right? The faculty is there to facilitate many things, but they cannot spoon feed you. They can facilitate, they can only organize a microcontroller. I remember that. I come from Hyderabad, very far from Jaipur. I was really interested in doing that microcontroller camp. I think that was during the December of our second year.
It was in December for 8 days.
Exactly. And I was very keen to do that, but at the same time I had to travel, right? So I missed that, but I regretted that. I really wanted to do. So one thing is facilitating, but the other thing is students sacrificing on some things to take part in those events and gain as much as we can. And then pursuing it further and developing it. That's, I think, where students need to be inquisitive, and they need to take that initiative to do it, right? Now, after your BTech, I want to continue on your story, because there's a lot more, I'm sure, Jatin. After the 4 years, you were very busy in developing many projects, while you were very active and disciplined towards your academics at LNMIT. So you managed to get a good pointer at the end of your eight semesters. And I mean, it's good, and then you don't have to be like a 10 pointer to call yourself a good student. A good student is one who's disciplined and who knows. Anyway, let's not get into that discussion right now. And after your BTech, you took that the Young India Fellowship, which is apparently it's advertised as a liberal arts program. So how did that happen, and why did you take that liberal arts, and how did that help you in your journey?
A very good question. I generally don't talk about it. I don't remember I have ever told anyone the real story. So I should first thank Professor Manju Dhariwal for that. So I was in my 4th year, and one day ma'am sent an email that this Young India Fellowship has started. They are looking for some bright students who want to do something. And there was a specific criteria that you should be like a recent graduate or going to be a graduate, something like that. And so I started browsing their website, and first thing I saw was Professor Narayan Murthy was one of the mentors there. So that got me inspired. And then I started looking about it, what this fellowship is, what are the chances of jobs, or what kind of education we get. And more I read about it, I got more and more motivated toward it, because at LNMIT, the HSS courses, they were least favorite for me. You always find me in laboratories doing some hardware courses, electronics and computers. I never wanted tech psychology and all those. But YF inspired me because they were basically mixing all these SSS courses with tech and with all other kind of sciences, economics, algorithms, and listening, being, all those kind of courses. So I went for their interviews. I just wanted to check it out. I reached there. I had a very fantastic interview experience. The interviewer asked me that, what are your passions? So I told him, I like cricket just like anybody else. And that day it was India versus Pakistan on a World Cup, and I was doing my interview at that same time, very moment. So he asked me, but there is a World Cup going on and it's India versus Pakistan. So why you are here? And I told him because I was genuinely interested into this course. I wanted to learn more. So he asked me, do you know the score? And I told him, no, I traveled all night to come here and I changed in the washroom. So he was like, he was very moved. Okay, you love cricket, but you are here. So he told me, what are your other interests? I said, I love poetry. So he asked me to recite one of my poetries, and I did so. And he really liked it. His name was Alumni. He's one of the artists and painter. So he kind of selected me, no questions asked. And then I was in YF. But during YF, I met a brilliant bunch of people, like all 50 of us. We all had different skills. Somebody was lawyer, somebody was a doctor, somebody was psychologist, somebody was art major. And I found a niche group of people who were into engineering, just 3 of us. So we started doing all those mix and blend courses. We started working with Penn, University of Pennsylvania, and we made this Whispersh belt for visually impaired. And that was which basically was another turning point in my life, because of that I got exposed to all these competitions. I got exposed to Microsoft, and then somebody in Microsoft watched those videos and projects and they hired us.
Awesome. This is great. Actually, I never discussed with you about Young India Fellowship. But before that, let's thank Professor Sanghi, because he was the one who introduced the institute to YIF. Because I remember he asked me, there is a new program coming up, and it's one of his friends who initiated this entire program, Professor Pramad Sinha. And then, but I was like, sir, I want to get into academia. So no, this is not for you then. But then he was instrumental in having this ball kicked into the institute. I see sir's video is on now. So do you want to add something?
Yeah. I mean, I remember, sending an email to all you guys, and nobody responded in 2010. December 2010. And I then sent one mail. I said, this year, it is going to be very easy to get in. And next year, I'm sure that your next batch is going to ask me for recommendations. And I told Pramad Sinha that, why are you taking only fresh graduates? Why don't you take me? Because I was so excited about that program. And he said, are you willing to, lose 1 year of salary? I said, yes, of course, for this program. So I'm so glad that Jatin did this.
No, I remember Professor Sanghi telling me also this thing, that if I were given a chance, I would do the YF fellowship, he told us. But maybe me and Krishna didn't take that opportunity, but there were several others, like I think with Jatin, Varun joined, and Deepak also joined, and both of them are doing incredibly well. And I remember having a conversation with Varun about how relevant YF fellowship was for him. So it indeed helped, because it really opens up many diverse options, give you a flavor of many different things, I think. So it was great for many students.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So guys, I just wanted to say goodbye to you. I have another meeting at 7:45, so I'm going to leave you. And really great to see you guys here. And thank you very much, Amit, for calling me today. Thanks.
Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now, so
since you're talking of YIF, Krishna,
yes,
sorry
sir.
to interrupt you. Since you're
No
talking
problem.
of YIF, and of course Jatin is right here. but the crowd here, the young people who are listening into you, will be happy to know that one of these three people, that is Deepak Bansal, he ultimately ended up doing an MBA at Stanford.
Yes.
Okay, so that's our first entry into the Ivy League business schools in the US. And that was after his YIF programs. You can imagine this combination of tech and HSS and the tangents that, yeah, and then from there going into something else. So, yes.
And right now, this is my personal opinion. You could be an expert in one field, but in order to excel in general in a profession, it's key to be exposed to many different things, including HSS, because ultimately it's people who use our products or services. So exposure to HSS is extremely important, but let's not digress. Now, Jatin, from your entire journey, what I understand is, again, be open and then take up everything that comes your way. Because Young India Fellowship, you don't know what's there for you, right? But you went and you attended, you tried it. Now, it all boils down to this philosophy again. Undergrad, it's really for you to explore and find your Ikigai, if I may call it like that, Divanshu. Find your Ikigai. And you have 4 years, which is ample time. And the first 2 years predominantly are done with compulsory courses where you get exposed to calculus, basic electronics, data structures, algorithms, all these basics, which are kind of like pillars, the foundations for whatever you do in the future, technically speaking. But then in the third and fourth year, you do have some flexibility in terms of your electives, or you do have some time to pursue new projects. But that's the time when one could explore more and find their Ikigai. Am I right, Divanshu?
Yeah, pretty much, yes. And I'll just add to that it's not necessarily that these 4 years of BTech are there for you to find your Ikigai. As I said, it's kind of an evolving process. And one thing I would add to that, since many of you did voted entrepreneurship during the poll, one of the major components in the Ikigai is what the world needs. That is very crucial, and it's not always that you have to identify that the need exists and you identify it. Sometimes you create a need. As entrepreneurs, you can create the need, and prime example being, of course, iPhones, Apple. I mean, I don't think they were needed, but somebody created the need. Facebook, any social media, before they existed, nobody knew that there's a need, but today there's clearly a need. So as engineers, as people from technical background, innovation is where you not necessarily identify the need, but you create the need. And you create something that the world just can't live without. I know it's easier said than done, but for those of you who are striving for entrepreneurship, this is key. Because if you'll only look for, okay, what is needed, then there are 100 others out there who have already identified the need and are working towards it. So there's no way for you to distinguish yourself. So always try to find something using your engineering brain that, okay, this is something which the world might need if I introduce the world to this particular thing.
Yeah, totally.
Right to Divanshu's point. Sorry, Kito. So for all the students who want to be like entrepreneurs, start their own startup or some venture, a good point to start is like Shark Tank US, and now Shark Tank India.
Yes.
That's very, very helpful. I love that show. I watch it every day, even though like I'm not going to be an entrepreneur soon, but I know what kind of questions are expected, how to build a business, and more importantly, you know the trends, which way it is going.
Totally. Again, it's just exposing ourselves to the new trends. Keep ourselves open and keep learning, right? Learning never stops. Once you enter into your undergrad and until you retire, maybe even later, learning never stops. So, and now this reminds me of one of my favorite quotations that I learned from Professor Raghubir Sharan in our first year. Learn how to learn. You're not here to learn a particular subject. It's not important I mean, it's important to learn subjects, but the criteria is not for you to just learn that. You need to learn how to learn, because learning
Right.
never ends. So once you are able to learn one subject from scratch yourself, it gives a confidence that, okay, I can learn anything. So it's not just about the subject, right? If there is someone who starts learning to paint, and once you master the art of painting, or you started from basic and you mastered it, so you saw that entire trajectory of learning things from scratch and continuing to learn. Now that's going to help lifelong, because we have to learn every single day. Now Divyanshu pursuing his PhD, and the remaining are working. Now I see we never have the sufficient skills ready at hand to solve problems that are out there, and we need to learn every single day. Perfect.
Krishna,
Uh-huh.
now I have some question for you.
Yes,
So
Jatin.
you definitely asked me a lot about my journey at LNMIT. I would turn the table, and I want to know, like, what was your journey at LNMIT, and what are your biggest regrets? So if you have to like go back to LNMIT, what would you do differently?
Oh, you have gone to the regrets part already. Okay, I'll I'll answer it in two different parts. Let me summarize my journey.
Sure.
It's interesting, my friends like Divyanshu also mock at me sometimes for some decisions that I made, that I took during my undergrad. Okay, but let me begin. Just like any other student, I started my first year, had no idea what to do. Second year, I had no idea what to do, but I got into the influence of spending more time with friends and studying less. So I started with a very good pointer in my first year, but my second year kind of saw a dip. And then by the end of second year, I was like, oh my God, no. I cannot continue with having less pointer, because ultimately having the GPA is very important, as much as we can, right? So my third year, I became a little more serious towards my academics. And I see that's more or less the trend in many students, actually. Third year is when we all become serious and work towards some specific things. Now, but until then, I had no idea what to do. At some point, I got interested in digital signal processing. And I really liked that field, so I wanted to do an internship after my second year in digital signal processing. But I didn't get an opportunity. I emailed many professors. I wanted to go spend some time, but after, I mean, why would someone take a second year student when I didn't
Correct.
prove myself using any projects? I didn't get any. And but I went to Kazakhstan, which was an amazing experience. I can never forget that experience. And I'll be happy to answer questions about Kazakhstan if anyone has. But again, I couldn't continue that particular thing as my career, right? The things we did at Kazakhstan. Fortunately, during my third year, I got introduced to a course called combinatorial optimization. That was an elective offered, and I completely resonated with that field. I loved that subject. And then going forward, I took every possible course related to that particular domain that was offered at LNMIT, and that required me to do a lot of second year courses like discrete mathematics and a lot. Of course, I did data structures and algorithms, but I needed to do probability and stochastic processes. So many math related courses, I had to do them. So I'm well equipped with the combinatorial optimization part. I did all those, but after the end of third year, I ended up with an internship in the Indian Institute of Science in the computer science department, where I worked with a graph theory professor. Now, I'm not sure if all the second and first year students know all these topics like graph theory or combinatorial optimization, but I'm sure 1 year from now, you'll all be more acquainted than I am right now with all those terms. But these are some theoretical computer science concepts that use a lot of mathematics to bring some analytical results. And these fields have a lot of applications in, for example, networks. Facebook is a network of many different people that is modeled and represented as a graph. So I did my internship there, and how I got that internship was through a seminar that I attended at LNMIIT. This particular prof was invited for a seminar. I attended that, and I just asked her, I'm very interested in this field. Would you have any openings for an intern during the summer? And the prof was welcoming, and he said, I don't have money to pay you, but I can offer you an internship. I was like, okay, if not money, I'll at least learn something. So I ended up spending 3 months at IISc, where I read many research papers, and I had some very intriguing conversations with the prof. And that's when I made up my mind, oh, this is my path. I love this field. And then I did my BTP in that area. And at that point, we were very fortunate to have Professor S.K. Gupta in our institute. He was the pioneer in this field in entire India. Very popular professor, very successful researcher. I did my BTP with him, and after my 4th year, again, I was swayed away with many of my friends taking the GRE. So I was initially intending to stay back in India and pursue my MTech, giving my GATE. But then many of my friends gave the GRE. I was like, okay, let me also give it. You know, there's no harm in giving another exam. I gave it, and then, but somehow I got really inclined towards doing a master's during that course in the US. But somehow I couldn't manage to get into the schools of my interest. So I went to Professor S.K. Gupta and said, sir, I want to retake the GRE so I can get that score to get into Georgia Tech. That was my dream school, Georgia Tech. And so I said, okay, why don't I speak with my student who is a professor in Canada? Then sir just wrote an email to him, and within 5 minutes, I get a response. Sir, it's difficult to take an intern from India for 6 months, but I have a position open for a master's student. And it's fully funded, and it's a research master's, and it's an operations research. That's the field I wanted to work in. So it just worked out. And that's how I entered into master's over here. I finished my master's and continued for my PhD in another university. But again, that my PhD supervisor was my master supervisor's friend. So networks do matter. You know, it's really important to talk to people. If you're interested, I would never have got my internship at IISc had I not gone and spoken to the prof who came for the seminar. But even before that, I should have gone to the seminar. I should have attended that seminar. That's the first step. And then I spoke to him, I got my internship. And now I did my BTP and I didn't get the desired GRE score. That's when I went and spoke to Professor S.K. Gupta and genuinely expressing my concern. Sir, I need to spend 6 months and I want to get a research experience in a lab. And then that's how I ended up getting my master's. So what I take from my journey so far is talking. And you have resources. Know the resources that's available. And once we know the resources that are available to us and we genuinely make an attempt to use those resources, make use of them, and take help as needed. That's how I ended up. And to answer your second question, Jatin, about the regrets. That's a very interesting question, and I know my answer right away. You know, until my 12th, I had no introduction to computer science. I had no background in programming. But by the time I entered into the first year, we had a very, very good standard programming first course, you know, and that was very difficult for me. It was, and I had my friends who were introduced to programming from their high school, which is 12th, 11th, and 10th. I somehow didn't make an attempt to improve myself in programming for some reason. And after my first semester, I didn't get a chance again to go back to programming courses and improve myself. And that somehow stuck like a phobia for the entire 4 years. Oh, I'm not good at programming. I cannot do programming. And I deliberately avoided courses that required programming. I avoided them. But then after my BTech, I got my admission to masters, but the condition was you need to be good at programming because I had to do a lot of programming. That's when I ended up spending the summer before going for my masters, trying to learn
Just to
programming,
revisit it.
practicing more. Yeah, I somehow managed to do it. But so the learning that I take even now is, if there is a necessity, I would probably have learned it even in my first year. But no one put that necessity on my head and saying, you need to learn. Because it was left to me as a choice, I never did that in my first year. And even then, the remaining 3 years at LNMIIT, I think I should have done that. I would have been a much better programmer had I started then. But no, I mean, it's a regret, but not a big regret because I eventually learned, right?
Right.
Now, what is your regret, Divyanshu or Chetan?
Divyanshu, you want to take this?
And before you answer, Divyanshu, now, to the audience here, we are having this conversation not just to learn about each other, but we want to highlight some points that were key drivers in how our journeys were navigated, how we navigated through our journeys. So what were the key things that we did that helped us in the next step? So we are trying to give, I'm hoping the audience here is able to grab that and hopefully learn something from our conversations. And in case any of you in the audience has a question, either you raise your hands or put it in the chat box, we'll try to address them. So we want to have a more of a conversational type of session instead of just the three of us having a discussion here. And if you guys agree. Okay, Divyanshu.
Okay, if I start thinking about the regrets, well, there can be so many. So I'll not list all of them, but one particularly which I would like to emphasize others also to not make the same mistake which I did is, and I think part of it I mentioned earlier in a different form. Before you decide that you want to do something, okay, or try to get a flavor of what you're getting yourself into. Don't just decide something because hey, somebody told you, let's just get into that. And this happened with a very simple instance for me, something like a GRE exam. Now I came for masters at University of Minnesota with a very good GRE score, but that was my second attempt. I remember the first time when I gave GRE, this was college, I was in undergrad third year, sixth semester or so, and I just heard some seniors talking about अच्छा GRE देना होता है अमेरिका जाने के लिए. That's all I heard. I didn't even Google what GRE exam preparation is required. I didn't prepare well. I didn't ask any seniors about, okay, what are the pointers to prepare, how much time is needed. Just somebody told, give that exam and apply. And I gave GRE, I took my GRE exam then. And none of you would be aware of the format, but back then the format was, it was out of 1600, not out of 340, which is the current GRE format. And the first time I gave that GRE exam, my score was so terrible that I feel embarrassed mentioning it also here. But yeah, let's just put it this way, that it was really terrible. And that was because I just heard people talking about it and I got into it. So I didn't do my own research, my own thorough investigation that what preparations are required, what skills are required to get into this, and what is the preparation needed on my part. Is it something that I'm actually interested in? Is it something that I'm actually prepared for? And this happens a lot, which I think Jatin mentioned and I also mentioned in the beginning, when we fall for just the buzzwords which we have just heard. Okay, we want to do MS because everybody is doing MS. For that GRE is needed. Okay, let's give GRE. But it doesn't work that way. If you truly want to have a nourishing career, successful career where you are satisfied with what you are doing, do a little bit of research and dig into and do some investigation into what you are getting into. Don't just fall for the trap. And this goes even when you are selecting your narrowing down your field in research or in industry or anything. Say these days, of course, the buzzwords are machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science. Almost every next computer scientist calls himself a data scientist. Okay, and this is, I'm not quoting, it's not my opinion. I've heard one of our LNMIIT friends who is currently working in Uber, he actually told me this. He says that every next person thinks he's a data scientist when they don't actually know what it entails to be a data scientist, what exactly is needed. So, and they just want to do a higher studies or some research in that field without actually knowing what skills are required there. So don't go for that. If you of always be aware of these buzzwords. And for that, what Krishna told, that he used to attend all the seminars, and from one particular seminar he figured out something. So yeah, it's good to attend all these seminars and all these talks. I think in our time they were very frequent in LNMIT. I think Professor Sanghi ensured that almost every week we had a speaker. I'm sure that's the current trend also. Maybe not so much in the Corona times, but in the regular days, I think that's still the trend. So if there are talks going on certain topics, so don't just brush it off that, okay, I've never heard of the topic, what's the point of going? If you have time, it's better than sitting in hostel. So go and attend the talk, learn more and more about things, try to see what interests you. But before you actually get into that finally, do a little bit of more investigation. Don't just do something because somebody told you that this is the thing to do. And I gave only one example of the GRE exam, but there are other things also during my 4 years of LNMIT, which I did just because somebody else is doing it, or just because somebody told, okay, do that, without doing my own thorough diligence. And that can be counterproductive. So try to avoid doing that mistake. So yeah, that was
Perfect.
one of my things. Jatin?
Nice life lesson.
So I don't remember like if there was any regret. Not many regrets for LMIT. If I have to think, the only regret I would have would be that I could have participated more in sports and dance and other activities. I was really terrible at those things, or I did not explore. But I could have like gone for cricket and badminton. Now I love badminton. I go for badminton every day. But we had a big new auditorium with say 3 or 4 badminton courts, and I never explored them. So that's my biggest regret.
That's a genuine regret. You missed out playing in that awesome court.
To miss out on the fun. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, missed out on the fun. But he had fun in the lab, so that was compensated.
I did mention it. Okay. Speaking
Nice.
of GRE and TOEFL, Divyanshu and Kitu, you both did your masters, and Divyanshu, you are doing your PhD right now. Kitu, you are already finished from US. So what would you advise to all the students about your experience of BTech versus research-based degree like a PhD? What is the difference?
What's the difference between
your BTech and masters and PhD by research? Like how difficult it is, how challenging it is, whether they should go for it or not. Like how should they even choose? Like if I'm a student right now in LNMIT in my 4th year, should I consider PhD, or how do I know I should be doing it?
Good.
I think
Yeah,
Krishna can answer this question better than I can, so he'll answer. But meanwhile, I just wanted to point out, Jatin, there's a question in the chat box which you can answer appropriately. So while Krishna is answering this, why don't you read the question? Yeah, Krishna, go ahead.
Okay, super. But Divyanshu, you also have good exposure to what I'm going to talk, so please jump in whenever you think you can. So I see 2 different parts to this question. The first is, how is education at LNMIT different from education in North America? That aside, the second part is, what's the difference between a master's degree, which is not a research-based master's, and the difference between research-based degrees like MS with thesis and a PhD, which focuses mostly on research. Let me go with the first step. The first question, LNMIT versus education abroad. Now, one of the stunning differences that I learned was, it's not a one-day deal, unlike in India. Courses are a continuous learning platform. We learn something every day. There are weekly assignments. There's a lot of work to do. It's not an easy cakewalk if we are used to that one-day preparation before the exam system, if I may call it like that. And unfortunately, that is mostly the case in Indian education scenario, and to be specific with LNMIT, at least back in 2010-11. I hope that's not the case right now. Although we had assignments, but we were not very serious about them. And the reason being, they didn't have enough weightage in the final grade. But in North America, what my understanding was, you cannot afford to miss an assignment because assignments have a huge portion of your final grade, and you need to be in good academic standing in order to continue in your degree. So it was a daily learning, a lot of continuous learning process. That was the most stunning difference that I observed between the two education systems. Jatin and Divyanshu, is there something else that I'm missing? The difference between Indian Lnmit education versus abroad?
More or less, you summarized it well. The one thing which I would just put it slightly differently is that I have seen, at least in our batch during undergrad LNMIT and other batches also, there was a tendency that there's a semester, there's a course. Once you are done with the course, the day of the examination, I'll forget everything about what I learned. That's it. As if the objective of the course was just to give that exam and get a grade, and that's it. Next semester, if there's a concept required from the previous course, I would have forgotten, and most of us would have forgotten. I don't know whether it's with the style of the teaching or whether it's lack of projects in the courses or what is it. But this is something which I haven't found in the undergrad students, at least at the McGill University where I am right now. Students are so enthused with specific courses that even if course projects are not part of project is not part of the course requirement, they would visit the faculty, and almost every student finds one or the other course for sure to associate themselves with projects directly with the faculty, even if it's not part of the course requirement. And that particular tendency I have found missing in undergrad students in India, particularly, at least for the 4 years that I was there. We would be very contented with just doing the bare minimum to get a good grade. On the other hand, the general attitude of students here is to go way beyond the minimum requirement, okay, at least in specific courses where it interests them. So that tendency to go beyond the set limits of the course, because professors have limitations. They have 40 hours of lectures, they have certain evaluations, they can't enforce projects and extra tests and exams and for everyone. So you have to figure out that, okay, in a semester, if you're doing 5 courses, at least pick one of those 5 to be your favorite for that semester, and try to go a little beyond what the course prescribes you to do in that particular course. This is something which I've seen in undergrad students at McGill, but I did not see at LNMIT when I was there. So yeah.
Agree. Yeah. I think the project component makes a lot of difference. When you do something hands-on, it kind of sinks in. You listen, you just barely remember. But when you do it, it actually sinks in.
Here I want to add that,
yes, sir.
What Divyanshu said, at your time, that means when YO7 and at least I can remember Y10 also, because you used to go out of your way. Like, as I remember, Jatin and other people, they used to go at night, and in the labs, they used to work throughout the night. But that particular attitude or that particular habit or attitude is completely missing now, completely missing. So whatever I see, the students, they do bare minimum, that's all. And some students, of course, they are doing a little bit more, but like the time, YO7 was there or Y10 was there, that culture presently is missing. That is what I see the difference. Yeah, please continue.
So yeah, that I would say is a concern. So I think every student at an undergrad level should question it, that in a semester, if everybody takes like 4 or 5 or 6 courses, if you are doing the bare minimum in all the courses, then you are definitely doing something wrong. Okay, so if this trend continues for more than one semester, that you're just meeting the bare minimum requirements of all the courses, then you're not doing justice to the resources you have, and you're not being very careful about how to choose your career or how to prepare yourself better for your career. So if what Professor Nyogi pointed out is, I mean, that trend was partly there in our batch also. There are all sorts of students in every batch, but here I'm talking more to each individual. So each individual try to identify at least something in each semester, so that you can say that that's what made that particular semester count for me. No semester should go just, okay, 4 months of time wastage. So please keep that thing in mind on a continuous basis.
Perfect. And And in addition to what you have said, Devanshu, not just with courses, I think we need to take advantage of many other things that are offered to us. For example, taking part in Vivacity. It's not for fun, although it's a lot of fun to take part in Vivacity, organizing things, literary committee, cultural council, sports council. It's not for no reason that we have all these things set up in an institute. And I think we should call ourselves fortunate to have all those facilitated in the institute. Now, and those are opportunities to learn something new. There's always something new that we can learn by organizing an event, by speaking to a set of audience. There is always something that we can learn. I think it's also important for us to um, capture those opportunities, grab them. Anything else, Jatin?
Sure. So because we are talking about laboratories, I want to add something. So I remember when YO7 and Y10 was there, we had a lot of these kind of activities, not just the laboratory part. So we had Phoenix, we had this Cybros, we had dance club, and all these clubs were very, very active. So I don't know how that is going on right now, but it is a two-way street. The institute should encourage all those club culture with proper budget and proper access to facilities, and students have to be very creative, use those facilities, and try to have a healthy competition, because that competition encourages everyone to work harder. And talking specifically about laboratories, if so my message is that if you are not using laboratories in your engineering college, then you are again in a school. There is no difference between a school and university if you're not using laboratories, because the purpose of engineering is to create and explore. If you're just learning, you could have done that online, you could have done it in a school by reading the books. So explore those facilities, and I would highly encourage people go after 5 p.m. to all those laboratories with proper access, and build your own things.
Awesome. And now at least I can speak to myself now that I'm asking all of you to go participate in everything, attend all seminars, go spend time creating things in the laboratory. I'm speaking it from a reflective standpoint. After 10 years after graduation, I look back and see what I missed, what I could have done differently. This is something. So I'm speaking from that perspective, not trying to claim that I did everything perfectly when I was there. But then that's the whole point of having an alumni come and talk to you, right? That is to just say what they could have done differently and what could probably have helped them further in their career. Okay, now I think the second question was about research-based degrees. If someone wants to pursue a PhD or a research degree, I think the first step is to do a master's with a thesis. So that actually gives you a flavor of what is research, and you spend 2 years or 2.5 years working on the same project, and that kind of tests your patience and also tests your true interest in creating new things. So this is how I understand things. Undergrad, it's where we explore many different things, try to understand where our interest lies, and the Ikigai basically. And in a master's degree, that the name suggests you master that particular thing. You take up a field and do many courses, do some research projects, and you master that field. And when you get into a PhD, it's more about creating knowledge. So you don't take courses. I mean, you do take courses as needed, but then the main goal of a PhD is to create knowledge. So we all learn algorithms by different names, like Dijkstra's algorithm or many things. At some point, it was invented by someone. So that's the goal of a PhD. You want to create new things. I hope I answered that question. Divyansh,
Okay,
you had something to say.
yeah, there's a question in the chat window, so I'll just quickly answer that. So somebody just asked that for 5 years, integrated course of masters, one can directly go for PhD afterwards, or any tips or suggestions for dual degree students? So whether to go for PhD, if you're doing a dual degree, meaning both masters and a BTech combined, then for sure you're doing a thesis. So yes, you can go for a PhD after that. Technically speaking, just in terms of enrolling in the program, even after BTech also you can go for a PhD. But what Krishna is trying to suggest is that before you commit yourself to a research, to a long-term research, always get some exposure of a short-term research so as to know that whether this is exactly something which you want to do or not. For that, doing a master's degree first or thesis based helps, because it's in a master's degree you have a time limitation, you finish your master's degree, so you know for sure that okay, research is something, writing thesis is something which can get really frustrating sometimes. So then you know for sure that yeah, this is something which you want to commit for a 4 year or 5 year period, then you opt for a PhD. So that particular experience and exposure you will definitely get in a dual degree also. So if you have a combined BTech plus master's degree, you can of course go for PhD afterwards directly. And sometimes if you want to say after BTech directly go for a PhD, you don't necessarily have to opt for a master's, because it might feel like, okay, first I spent 2 to 3 years in master's and then 4 to 5 years in PhD. That's such a long time. Your family will be after you to get married, and when are you start earning money, and all those things will be there. So I understand that there's a time frame issue also. But even if you want to go for a direct PhD, my strong recommendation would be that after your undergraduate, uh, go for a 6 months internship of sorts. You can always go for a research assistant position in one of the good institutes in India. And fortunately, LNMIIT is blessed with faculty members who will be who have more than who have very good network, and they'll be happy to connect you with various people across academia in across India and across different parts of the world. You have such a strong alumni network, so get in touch with them if you want to do an internship in particular thing. But do a research project on your own first before you decide that you want to get into a PhD. So get that initial short-term research exposure anyhow before you decide for a long-term research career. That's what important. That's what is important, I believe. So I hope that answers the question. And there's another question, that what about directly going for job after integrated courses? Any problems faced of any sort? So no, there will not be any problems if you want to go for a direct job immediately after an integrated program. If anything, an integrated or a dual degree is one step add-on to an undergraduate degree, right? So there is no inherent disadvantage that okay, this is a 5 year program, so you won't get a job, nothing like that. You are always qualified for any job for which undergrads are qualified. In addition, you are qualified for a job which even masters are only qualified, right? So dual degree definitely helps. It's just about, not all the students are ready to make the 5 year commitment to begin with. They want the 4 year degree, and even that, if preferred, they would like to complete in 3.5 years and then just go for a job, right? Because that going for a job is a top priority. Many of us are on education loan. We want to start earning as soon as possible, and in that 1 year extra doing a research based thesis or something seems like a distraction. That's why most people do not opt for dual degree. But in principle, if you're not in a hurry to get a job, there's absolutely nothing wrong in going for a dual degree, because you'll get a job after that also. And
I would like to add something more to
yeah,
this.
sure.
So you don't necessarily need to like wait till your 5th year to start exploring your research or thesis. You can do that with your BTech as well. So all the other students who are not enrolled in a 5 year integrated course, you can start right after, I think, 1st year with some faculty members, and see if you can find some small research projects where you can get involved very soon. And if you do some research for next 3 years, you can do a lot of publications, and that is sufficient for you to land a PhD in a good university. So you don't necessarily need to do a master's.
Yes, and in what Jatin said, what helps a lot is if you do not get space along with your courses, then during internships or summer internships and all help a lot. I know Jatin did an internship in IIT Bombay and then IIT Kharagpur. Krishna did an internship in IIC Bangalore. I also got an opportunity at IIC Bangalore once. So if you do an internship in a particular field, that also gives you research exposure, at least good enough for you to decide whether this is how you want to go ahead or not. So make sure you make good use of the internship opportunities that comes your way, And sometimes they don't come your way, you have to find it, but then you have a good enough network, both alumni and faculty network. So make use of that to find good research internship opportunities. And this applies even for actually industry jobs. For that, I think Jatin will again be better able to answer that even industrial internships help a lot. So Jatin, you want to emphasize something on that?
Sorry, I was reading something. Yeah, what is your question?
About the
Divanshu?
industrial internships. How do students go? Because more than 50% students, almost 50% students here are looking for full-time technical jobs.
Right.
So how would you suggest them? What should be the best utilization for them during the summer time, during the breaks that they get between semesters? What's the best utilization for those students? And how
Sure.
can they go about that?
So one thing which I also missed during my undergrad was that I was doing a lot of hands-on projects, but because we were starting everything from the scratch, we did not build upon existing knowledge or existing project and made something industry level. So I would highly suggest that if you are looking for industry level jobs, start working on industry level projects and apps. You just can't do your basic coursework projects and expect to get a job in Google, Microsoft, or Facebook or Amazon. Start using AWS or Azure, or build a small app which talks to cloud. All those kind of projects which are actually applicable in real life right now. So I would highly suggest that doing in the summer. Then once you apply for an industry internship and you get it, make sure you learn fast and you learn a lot of things. Don't go into one particular topic, but explore, because internship is again a place to explore. And once you explore and find a good role or a good field, then work in it.
There's a question in the chat window which asks about what is the difference between simple masters and masters with thesis. I think Krishna was about to answer it, but he was talking about something else. So I'll quickly answer this part here.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Simple masters, I mean, there's nothing called simple masters. It's in most of the US universities, you have masters in two categories, MS by thesis, MS non-thesis. So MS non-thesis is highly course intensive. So within a specialized field, you have to do extra credit of coursework. So you don't have to do any research particularly. There are more specific courses that you're taking, and there has to be a project component in a course, but no new research, as in you don't have to come up with a thesis where you have created something new. By research, meaning you come up with something new in your particular field, however small, but you have created some extra concept, some extra thing in your own field. That's research, and that can be difficult. So that's why many times students do not go for masters by research, because masters by research will require you to do, at least the general US format is 6 courses in almost which every student completes in the first year, followed by next 1 to 2 years of intensive research work, followed by a thesis and its defense. That's the format for masters by research, as opposed to masters by non-thesis method, where you have to do somewhere between 10 to 12 courses within 2 years of time frame. And in that, like each semester you are taking 3 to 4 courses, and the course load is not same as the undergrad where you can actually afford to do 5-6 courses. 3 courses one semester will not leave you even an hour spare for your own luxury during masters. So that itself has its own set of difficulties. But yeah, masters by non-thesis is more preferred by students who are immediately looking for a job after masters, and not at all for PhD or any research career. And masters by thesis is more suggested for students who are looking for a PhD degree or a research-based career. So that's the prime difference between the two. And just so that you guys know, most of the universities, at least in Canada, they do not even offer masters by course. They only have masters by thesis. And even in India, most of the good master's program across all the IITs, ISC, they all are thesis-based program. Because if you have to just get a job based on courses, then BTech itself should suffice. And as Jatin was mentioning earlier, these days you have so many online platforms to learn new courses, Coursera and all those things. So you can always learn courses from there. So that's why it's not that widespread. However, in United States, almost all the universities do offer masters by non-thesis also. I hope that answers the question.
It does.
Okay.
And there is a very
One more
interesting question
point,
in the chat.
masters
Sir.
by thesis. Master by thesis, I think there is more chance of getting scholarship.
That's right.
Yes. From a funding perspective, you can almost assure yourself that if you're going for a master's non-thesis, you'll not get funded. because
But with
nobody is going to
masters-
pay you just for taking a bunch of courses. Okay, and education outside and even India everywhere these days is expensive. So if you're looking for a funded position, then you have to associate yourself with certain projects, because faculty have projects which are funded. And if you are associating yourself with projects and you're doing a research anyways, then might as well do less courses and focus more on the research, produce a thesis, get some papers. So yeah, you do get funded in masters by thesis. It's more likely that you'll get funded there.
That's right. And once you get funded, you probably would have very little burden of the education loan, which I think is also very important when someone goes abroad for their master's degree. Okay. There is a very interesting question. I really wanted to touch upon this point as well. And it's from Devansh. He basically says communication skills are extremely important, even in a technical job, which I completely agree with that. And the question is, what would the advice be to and how to explore this field along with our curriculum? Divyanshu, do you want to take this?
I'm sorry, I got a direct message from another student. So I was reading that question. I forgot what you said. So can you say that again?
The question is about how to make sure we improve our communication skills, or let me say soft skills, while we are preparing for the technical stuff.
In the presence of Professor AP Singh here, I would be embarrassed to even answer this question. I mean, I don't think any one of us is better prepared to answer this question if AP Singh sir is sitting here.
Sorry, Divyanshu, you can't duck that question. This is your test. How much did you mug only for the exam and forget? And how much do you still remember?
No. So I was not about to dump the question. What I was about to recommend students is that the very first step in this is, do not forget to take those courses. Even if you're not taking them for credit, audit them. And I think this Krishna Teja here, he audited those courses. And yeah,
so I attended few lectures actually. Yes.
Yeah, he audited those lectures. So nourishing your soft skills and communication skill is again a very continuous process, and we are doing it on a regular basis. For me, for people like me and Krishna, I know what helped is public speaking. Public speaking really helps. And as sir mentioned earlier that, okay, he was the first president, thanks to a very good soapbox speech. I remember that. And then I also followed in his footsteps. So public speaking is one skill which you have to work on. And that comes only from taking the challenge, daring to do that once in a while. And here I would quote one particular student from my batch. Akash Bhargav, there was a student in Y07 batch, very nice fellow, but he came from a Hindi medium school background. So when he came first year, he came to me and he asked me that, how do you speak so good English and how are you so confident in speaking? So for us, my entire education has been in English from an English medium school. So public speaking came naturally to me ever since school days. But for not everybody, it comes that way. So all I told him is, don't be afraid of talking to anyone, even if you're making mistakes. Okay, don't be afraid of that. And that guy literally followed it. He started talking to me and he would always speak with mistakes in the beginning, but slowly he evolved so much that by fourth year, I think he was one of the most most confident speakers in my batch. And his presentations, his talks, they would be really like flawless, absolutely flawless. So yeah, to get that confidence, starting from undergrad second year itself, I would say try to focus on public speaking. And I think you'll get plenty of opportunities at LNMIT for that. If you don't get those opportunities, try to grab them. You have events like Vivacity, get involved with them, because if you are, say, part of the planning committee or the marketing team or anything like that, then you will be forced to interact with many people out there. You will be going out there searching for funding. So you'll be interacting with multiple people. So just interact, get over that hesitation that what you are saying is wrong or people are judging you. And that takes time. It's easier said than done, but that takes time. So use these 4 years to do that. Don't be shy. Confidence and soft skills cannot be infused sitting in your room. That's the only key that I know. So go out of the room, go out of your comfort zone of the hostel, and then it will be fine.
Right. Super. I wanted to add a little more to that. It's not about the language. It's just a medium to convey your message. What's more important is the message. To address any set of audience, communication, or even an interview or a group discussion, whatever it is, the content is what matters the most. And the way you convey that, it's second most important. You need to hone on both of them. So make sure you acquire that message has to be very clear, what you're trying to convey. And then the language part, it comes with practice. Take part in student gymkhana, clubs, speak with people, organize more events. That's the only way. There is no shortcut, right?
Yeah. And there's a question which says that any good opportunity which requires public speaking and confidence more than hard skills such as coding, there are umpteen number of those. In fact, there are more such jobs which require good public speaking and more managerial skills than the hard technical skills which you're calling as coding and all. So, I mean, public speaking in itself can be a career. People have made career out of it just by public speaking. There are many examples of people like that. Just watch some TED Talks on that. You'll see that.
And all the tech companies have managerial roles, PM jobs,
product management roles. Yes.
And there are jobs where people are paid only to talk, and they are really well-paying jobs. So
product management is one example, I believe. Although you have a lot of product experience, right?
There is one question which I received, I think directly, but since I'm on my mobile, I'm not able to respond. So I'll just read the question here. So there's one student who said that they have taken a 1-year pause in their degree. They were interested in cybersecurity field. They wanted to learn more or grab an internship, and they decided to take a 1-year pause. So would 1-year pause to pursue something else impact in any way, or what should the student do? So Jatin, can you share some insight on this? For a particular technical field, if somebody takes a 1-year pause?
Let me explain to you a bit. Actually, in your time, this option was not there. It has recently come. And here, mainly what happens, the students having some kind of difficulty or some kind of depression problem, some kind of health problem, they can take 1-year leave. Other than that, anyone actually, any student, they can take a 1-year leave, a 1-year pause, and they don't have to pay any fees. And it is useful, but you can give light onto it. Yes.
Okay. One thing which I have understood, I mean, I'm not very well aware of what is the recent job trend or job requirements in India, but at least from US and Canada, what I have seen and understood, that if an employer is looking to hire you, the employer doesn't care that you have a 1-year gap in your degree. The employer is concerned about your skill set. What have you acquired? And if you happen to take a 1-year gap because of some personal reasons to take care of your health or any such issues, like Professor was telling, if you have some depression or mental health issues or some family urgency for which you have to take a 1-year pause, don't assume that it will have a huge impact on your career. More or less, it won't have any impact on your career, because none of the job requirements that I have seen ever list that you are supposed to complete a BTech degree in 4 years. There's absolutely no job requirement where I've ever read this. Okay. And if you are taking this 1 year to explore your interests, do something else, then just make sure that 1-year gap counts. 1-year gap counts for your own learning, for your own skill set, so that eventually you might add something extra to your CV because of that 1-year gap. Then it justifies even to a prospective employer that why you took that 1-year gap. Okay. So don't worry about the 1-year gap, because I for sure have never seen a job requirement which puts a restriction on the number of years that you took to complete a degree. And if there's a justified reason why you took a gap, you can always justify to the employer in an interview. As simple as that.
And that's exactly what Chandresh also mentioned. Hello, Chandresh. Explore your area of interest if you want to take a gap and go for it. And
Chandresh is here. Hi, Chandresh.
Yes,
nice.
Hello, Chandresh. He's from YO8 batch.
YO9, I think. Chandresh is from YO9. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
YO9.
8. Sorry. I'm correct.
8. Yeah, 8.
Awesome. And we discussed most of the things that we wanted to. We are looking forward to having more questions in the chat box, or if you raise your hands, we'll be very happy to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, because we have been talking for almost 1.5 hours now. So
yeah, and I'm sure if we continue talking, we can go on for at least 2 more hours, because
yeah,
4 years.
I think I'm guilty of what Professor Niyogi pointed out in the beginning, that even though Divyanshu would decide to talk for 5 minutes, once he starts talking, he won't stop. So I'm guilty of that. But for sure, if there are more questions, we would be happy to take questions.
I think it's the apt time to go into the slides. We have a slide with
Oh yes,
all
yes,
the
yes.
career options
Summary
listed.
of things.
Yeah, maybe that would encourage.
Yeah, and
more
there's
discussion.
one more question. This is a question that I think Jatin, you can take, because it's about getting internships at good companies. So what are the skills that one should work on? Particular skills that one should work on for internships? I think within the slide, you can answer this question.
Sure. So let's start with the slide first. I just want to give a brief overview and then we will talk about this question. So generally there are two streams people want to go in, either into a professional career like internship, full-time jobs and entrepreneurship, or in higher studies, or there are some other fields which they want to explore. And for all of them, there is a preparation which is required. So this question is regarding internship and preparation. So no matter which company or which field you want to do internship in, you have to prepare, right? So first do a research about your field of interest. So for example, if you are interested into computer science, find out what are current trends, what is happening in the field, what kind of software everyone is building. So go to Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, go to their research pages or their, their teams. Look what kind of teams are there, what they are working, look at their job descriptions. You will get a feel what they are doing, what kind of skills they require. Try to gain those skills. And the best way to do that is do it yourself. Make some projects, take those courses. It is very, very important, which we haven't discussed yet, is to have a right group or partner or a team. We did not touch upon this topic yet, but if you are doing it alone, chances are you will be bored and you will not pursue it any further. But if you have a teammate or a partner who is equally interested and passionate about it, you two or three can basically motivate each other. Each of you can learn different set of skills, because learning those skills takes like say thousands hours, but condensing it and explaining it to other takes much lesser. So you can help each other into doing that. So get a like a equally passionate person, partner, start preparing for those skills. Eventually you need to do coding and interviews for technical jobs, so prepare for those. Or BTech level coding is more than sufficient to crack any coding interview ever, so yeah, that's my advice.
Super. I think in summary, take your courses. I know many companies have official internship programs where you can apply, and just to add to Jatin's point, what differed from 10 years ago versus now for LNMIIT is that community of alumni. Back then, there were limited number of alumni who worked for big companies, but now take any big company or any big university, you at least have one person who represents LNMIIT in those organizations. So talk to them and try to understand what's required to enter into those organizations, be it a technical company or a university. I think talking and then preparing yourself for those technical skills, I think that's the right way to go about, isn't it, Jatin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and in terms of building the network, one very quick suggestion is try to spend more time on LinkedIn in a productive manner rather than any other social media platform. As aspiring engineers who are seeking different career options, I would suggest LinkedIn is a good platform to try to make good productive use of that.
Yeah.
Stay connected with your alumni.
To add to that point, you remember when we were applying for universities and everything, We used to create our own website or portfolio or blog.
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
is that now. So if you are applying for a job, you are applying for masters or PhD, people look at your LinkedIn and GitHub. GitHub
Yeah,
for
they do.
technology.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
make sure you polish them. You write all your interest and passion. It's a big thing, right? It's not a resume of one page of document. You can post videos. You can uh, put links to your GitHub code and all kind of funny things you can do there.
Yeah, your LinkedIn profile tells a lot to a prospective employer about your personality, about your likes, dislikes, about what you do and what you're good at. So it's not necessarily that you just have to post all your details there, that okay, everything in your resume is posted there, but what sort of activities you're doing on LinkedIn, it's important. So
Yes.
make sure your LinkedIn profile page looks as professional and as oriented towards what you want to do as possible. So that attracts many prospective employers for sure.
Super. And again, building that network, it's very important, and be diligent in how you do that. You also shouldn't spam people. So have meaningful conversations and try to, and your alumni, I think, will be very happy to help and talk to you and give any information that they are able to offer. Was there any other new question?
Yeah, there are two questions. I think there's one question that says how to build a good LinkedIn profile. Now that itself can be a 2-hour session. So I would recommend you to just, there are some very good YouTube videos on that actually, which guide you on how to technically nourish your LinkedIn profile, how to project yourself better. So due to the dearth of time, I'll skip this question here because that's a really elaborate question. And there is one more question. So let me just read it.
Before we jump, I'll give a very small crash course on LinkedIn profile. Look at LinkedIn profile of others. Look at my profile, look at Divyanshu's, Krishna, anybody you know, Bill Gates, go to their profile, look at what they are writing and how they are presenting their work. And that would be a very fast way to just, get motivated. Try to follow those tendencies. That's it.
There is a very big question on the chat window, so I'll need 30 seconds to read that. So give me 30 seconds for that.
Is that a personal question to you, Divyanshu?
Loud. Let me read that question out loud because it's a huge question. It says that in the US, the weightage of assignments is very much as compared to midsem and endsem. But in India, the trend is like weightage of endsem is 50%, midsem 40%, assignment just 10%. The weightage trend in India focuses to study for exam just a week before exam. So what do you think? Why Indian institutes don't change their examination weightage pattern? Is this because of their less willpower, or is there a government rule that doesn't allow institute to change this weightage pattern? Is the Indian educational system outdated with examination-centric approach, problematic curriculum, emphasis on rote learning, low priority to extracurricular, and numerous other issues? Wow, that's a very elaborate question, and
A very good question.
yeah, very elaborate question though. But what I would, a short answer to that would be that let's not blame it on the entire education system to begin with. Particularly, let's talk specifically in the context of LNMIIT, a deemed to be university where every professor designs the course in their own format. Now, I don't remember that all my LNMIIT courses were like that, that they are all exam centric. If that is the case, then this is definitely something which I think in the UGC you do have student representation, so you should bring it up with academic advisors there, that there should be courses which are not so exam centric, where the evaluation is based more on projects and intermittent assignments, not just the 3 hour of sitting in a hall.
I remember DBMS and computer architecture, or distributed systems, those OS,
so
they were
in our time, there were definitely courses which are more project oriented than exam oriented. So there is always a mix of all those. So there are some traditional theoretical courses which will always have an interim exam, no matter whether you like it or not. And that goes even in universities in United States or in Canada also. So this problem with exam-centric curriculum is not limited to India. It's kind of a worldwide phenomena, but slowly people are changing. Slowly the way courses are offered is evolving. And the advantage of being a deemed university there is that each professor is authorized to design the course and evaluate the students in their own manner. So if you have some recommendations, you should always discuss it with the professors and try to have a conversation with them in what you think would be a more productive evaluation in this particular course. And I think DVM has answered to this question in one line, which says that National Education Policy 2020 is answer to this. DVM, do you want to? DVM is here. Hi, DVM. He's also from our batch. I think you guys might have heard him in his first talk. But DVM, if you want to say something to that, you may.
Yes, what I would like to add is the national education policy has got a complete revision on the education structure that is there in India. So last 40 or 50 years, which we have followed right from the British giving us independence, is now going to change the way we think and the way we tute ourselves. So that way they are inculcating most of the things like arts, science, and other curricular activities, where if somebody wants to drop out, say he's not liking the pattern of exams, he still gets a degree from the government of India, where he is considered he is an educated person. So that way you are open to choose your own field and the pattern in which you want to be tested. So definitely, yes, in years to come, by the time you will be an alumni, the one who has asked the question will have an answer with the National Education Policy 2020.
Super. But it's not in our control right now. What students can do right now is to take initiative, talk to your profs, ask for more projects, and if they have limited capacity to give a project and evaluate all 100 students in the course, you could end up taking more projects. And
Krishna, there's another question which maybe you can take quickly.
I have something to add here regarding the assignment and things. There are certain problems associated with it. First of all, if you give assignment to the students, lot of copying is there. So the students, they copy each other. Not only in the assignments, even in the exams. Presently we know how to, how to look into the exams actually. But in the exams also there is a lot of cheating. Maybe you can say 70% sometimes, 60 to 70% of cheating. This I have observed. So online examination, of course, not in the offline one. So that is one problem with the assignment. The students, they, if you give the assignments, 80% they copy each other. So that doesn't, make any learning process. Second thing is, suppose say there are in a class, there are a large number of students. One faculty member is there and suppose there are 300 students or 500 students, or suppose say 200 students. Now, checking their assignment is a great task. So we need to have, good number of research scholars, basically TAs, for doing that job. Now that TAs are not available that much in many departments. So these are the actually limitations and problems associated with the assignment thing. So first of all, the students, they have to take assignment serious, but they copy each other. That is one major problem actually. Okay.
Sir, I have some suggestions on that.
Yeah.
So first problem was about TAs, right? We don't have enough number of TAs to handle all these assignments. So this is something which I noticed while I was in LMIT, that we generally have TAs from masters or PhD, but not from undergrad. But it's very common in US universities that if I have taken a course already and I did well, I got like A or B, I can be a TA for that course next year. And having like electives, that can be very next semester. So maybe we can bring that culture. We can have some TAs who have already taken that course and done well. And that way we would have like equal number of TAs than students attending that class. So we can have like very bright students doing that TA work. And there can be some incentive for them, maybe some small remuneration or like a certificate or something which can help them in getting good jobs and internships. So that's part of the solution. Then the second solution is regarding the copying. So if you do individual assignments, it's very easy to copy when we have the same assignment. But for a lot of technical courses, especially in computer science, you have projects and you have those group projects. So in group projects, it is very hard to copy because then every group needs to have a different prototype or a different model and different idea presented. And for even for theory courses, what we can do is have a group project or group assignment where set of say 5 students work on a research paper or like just a technical write-up where they have to come up with their own original idea. So in a class of 100 with a group of 5, we have only 20 different projects or assignments. And when you work in a group, you also learn team building activities. So that's one way to go about it.
Yeah, eventually I think evaluation comes with its own set of complications and restrictions and difficulties for faculty and everyone. So what the ideas that Jatin gave, they can definitely help. But for students at this stage, there are certain limitations, whether you say it in the education system or wherever they exist. And while they might evolve over the time and we might get better ideas to make things better, for now, don't think of them as an impediment in your route to actually do something. You don't have to wait for a project to be evaluated to do that project. That's what we have been saying from the beginning. So just go out of the bounds of what the course curriculum prescribes. Fine, you have to give an exam that you will do anyways, and the exam counts for 50%. Do that. But at the same time, go beyond, do a project, even if it doesn't count for much. Because ultimately, the learning that will come from the project might actually be more than the learning that's coming from giving an exam.
Yeah.
However, because of the fairness component in the evaluation, it becomes difficult for faculty to include the assignment component all the time for evaluation. Because even in group project, like you'll always have among 5 students, one who is doing nothing, one who is doing everything. Ultimately, everyone gets the same grade. Everyone gets the same grade. So one will question, one will question what about the fairness of evaluation. So that's why evaluation is a rather tricky topic, which as undergrad students, we might not be much equipped to handle on our own. So let's have those limitations in hand and see whatever we can do best. So
and
okay.
Once the student
like-
is willing to give their 100% and learn, these are not at all obstacles to learning process. And we are all here to learn. And if we have that in mind, these obstacles can be ignored for now.
And I have a different perspective about this evaluation. So I believe that it is not important that in a group, every person is participating like equally. That is not possible. It doesn't happen in industry. It doesn't happen in real world. What is more important is if 5 people are working together, one of them has to get a leadership role. He has to communicate with all others team members, and you learn a lot of good skills. I was a group member in a group where everyone was from Hindi medium background. I was also from Hindi medium background, and it actually helped me, get some confidence and explain my ideas to my teammates. So all that helps. Even the person who is not contributing a lot, he get scolded. I scolded my teammates that you are not doing your job, learn something. And they need to learn a lot of things and present, So everybody has different skills. So somebody would be presenting, somebody would be doing a lot of coding, somebody would be designing the UX. You distribute your work, and that is more real life.
Okay. I think keeping the time constraint in mind, maybe quickly take the 2-3 questions with short answers. So Krishna, there's one question which I think you can answer, and let's try to keep it brief because I think we are already running out of time. So the quick
It's
question
about
is
LinkedIn introvert. Right?
The introvert question. So the question says that you say networking is very important, but what about an introvert like me who doesn't know what to talk? So one quick answer to that is most of the networking these days can be digitally done also, but that's not a very good answer. So Krishna, can you please?
I mean, digital medium, it's all good, but networking is not about just going and talking about anything to anyone. Be specific. But the first step before that is to understand what do you want to do. Find your field of interest. And for example, if you want to do an internship with a company, with Amazon, for example, if that's your goal, you don't have to be an extrovert to go and talk to an alumni or a friend who is working at Amazon or who had an internship at Amazon to understand what's the process, what do you need to be good at, and is there any suggestion from them. And it's straightforward. You don't need to be an extrovert. You don't need to be an excellent networking person to be able to have these conversations with people. Be direct, be focused, and have a target. What is it that you're trying to achieve from this conversation? It's not making friends. There's a difference between making friends and networking for a professional networking. You're not making friends, but you are having a professional conversation with someone. And in this case, if it's an alumni, you're having a discussion in regards to how to get yourself into that position in the future. So you don't have to be an extrovert.
Yeah.
And you, of course, have LinkedIn. Yeah.
Hey Ritvik, so I'm an introvert. DVM Teja is, Chandresh Pancholi is. So if you have like any further questions, please reach out to one of us.
Yeah, there's one more question. I think it's specifically to me, but it's a generic question, so I'll answer. Somebody has a specific goal to work in Samsung South Korea headquarters. So how do I get an international internship? So if you have specifically Samsung in mind, there are at least 15 LNMIIT alumni. They're working in Samsung Noida, and many of them have have also worked in Samsung South Korea, because almost everybody who works in Samsung does go to Korea once in a while for sure. So reach out to them. Reach out to specific alumni who are working in Samsung for more details on that, and they'll be able to guide you. Okay.
Most of the answers that we can give for an advice, I think they boil down to talk to alumni, and that's the biggest asset that you have right now that we didn't have back in 10 years ago. You have alumni working in a wide variety of companies, large companies, universities. Talk to them and they'll be happy to talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, because it's almost 2 hours, if there are no more questions, then I think we can wrap up the session.
Yeah.
If anybody has any concluding remarks to say, you may say. I already said a lot. So yeah.
If I may add something to that last point about contacting alumni, the new students may be aware but may not. There is actually a whole, we have a Dean for Alumni Affairs, Manju ma'am, that Divyanshu referred to in the earlier part. Professor Manju Dhariwal is the Dean of Alumni Affairs. Dr. Niyogi and I are both also part of that team. And we have as elaborate a collection of data and information about who's where and contact details. So if you can't reach them directly through LinkedIn or otherwise, you're also welcome to speak to somebody in your batch who's an alumni coordinator. Every batch, there are people who are part of the alumni cell. So there are multiple ways of being able to find someone to reach out to. And there is this setup here. So in case you're struggling, we can help you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And regarding the talk, I must say that it is a excellent talk today. All of you, the way you coordinated, starting from the initial introduction about the Ikigai, though I have read that book, partly, not fully. Yes, it is an interesting book, but very beautifully you have put up the whole thing that it is true that how to choose the right career, there is no, straightforward answer. But one has to remain, the takeaway that I got from the talk today, that talk to the people, remain open. So that is most important thing. And from the experiences of various alumni, whenever I talk to someone, this is what I felt, from their experience, that one has to remain open and explore and talk to different people, attend the different seminars. So that is how, one can really choose that what is the right option or right career for a particular person. So a very interesting and important talk that took place today. And what I will do, that I will be keeping this record, that means the file video file with me, and also it will be uploaded in the YouTube. Anyway, it is uploaded in the YouTube. And not only till Y21, the next batches, those who will come, I will be giving it to them so that they can refer back to this particular video. And there is a lot. I think you have almost you have covered almost all the important points. Most of the important points you have covered in a very beautiful way. So it will be an eye opener for many students, those who are sincere, and not only to the students. It will be a eye-opening session and lecture for the academicians, for the professors, as well as for the management and the administration as well. So a lot of important things are covered in this talk, and the recording is done and it will be uploaded. So I must thank you very much for this. Divyanshu was sick actually, but still he managed to sit for 2 hours. Thank you, Divyanshu, and thank you, Jatin, and thank you, Teja. It's a wonderful, wonderful talk, I must say. One of the most important talk I have ever heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the
opportunity.
compliment, sir. And yeah, thank you for inviting us for this talk. And one thing I would say on behalf of all three of us to the students, that you have our contact details. Feel free to reach out to us for anything, any specific help that you think we can provide you with. And not just us, but the entire talk was about connecting with alumni. But on the behalf of three of us, don't hesitate to contact us if you have any more questions or any way which we can help. Okay, it was nice interacting with everyone.
Sure, very nice.
Yeah.
On that last point, Divyanshu, you can be rest assured, we have never let you off the hook from the day you left from here. So whether it is you, maybe I've bothered Jatin and Krishna somewhat less than I have you. DVM has been regularly in touch. Chandresh not quite so much, but one reason why Professor Manju Dhariwal, Dr. Niyogi, and I are part of the alumni team is because all three of us have been here from YO3 onwards.
Yes, exactly.
And I know I'm speaking on their behalf as well. We do not hesitate to pick up the phone on anybody. I go out of my way to tickle people with whom I haven't had any recent contact, only to keep that connection alive. So that is entirely not only our privilege, but we have been using that privilege continuously. So you can.
And it has always been it has always been our pleasure, Captain, for that.
Captain.
That has been great, of course. And as Dr. Niyogi said, this has been absolutely wonderful. Coming back at the very start to your structure of making it, call it Ikigai, the point that I would like to bring to the attention of the younger crowd, many of the questions that we've had related to education system, this, that, whatever else, the whole problem is from 9th standard onwards, you have been forced to give up your intellectual abilities. You have been put through a little tunnel. You come out through that tunnel at the end of JE, and it has been so long in the tunnel that through these 4 years, you continue to believe you are in the tunnel. Whereas actually, this is the time when you are supposed to, as you heard your seniors speak, explore, explore, explore. The problem is not anything else. It's not the education system. It's not the country. It's not this, that, and the other. It's you. We don't know ourselves. So we need to explore our enormous capabilities. I have been mentioning this to batch after batch. You people are absolute wizards in so many ways, and now so many alumni are beginning to prove that. And as Krishna was saying, the alumni now available to you is also because since last year, I think, for the first time now, our alumni strength is larger than our strength on campus. And that is going to grow at 500 every year for the next few batches at least, before it increases even further. So that rich crowd available to you of people who have been exactly like you, who've been through exactly the same circumstances, and what you heard just now about floundering in the second semester and third semester, even from people like Krishna, who otherwise did so well academically. and this is fairly common trend, is entirely because of that tunnel that you were put into in standard 9, and you didn't have the maturity at that stage in first year and second year to realize that you needed to explore your own minds. So those of you who've probably suffered my little course in VEE and talking of the Johari window, this is that fourth window, that window which I don't know about myself and others don't know about myself. That is where you need to explore your enormous capabilities. There are multiple facets. Each one of you is a diamond, and a diamond has 57 facets. The only one you know about yourself is how you can mug, and your overconfidence about mugging one night and coming to an exam and believing that's the end of the world. So the whole programming that Krishna was talking about and how the importance of programming is this programming, reprogram your own mind about what capabilities you have and what you can become tomorrow. So if I can, say in one word, we are all very, very good at making bahanas. So I think in YO7, I had not yet coined this ability, but now we have one, which we call the bahana ability. There's nothing wrong in making bahanas. The trouble is making bahanas for the right reason, not for the wrong reason. So if you pick the right reasons, you have your Ikigai right there. You know what the world needs. The batting order is not what will I get paid for as item 1. That is not my first priority. Second priority, my love for things. That is not your second priority. That batting order is wrong. Begin with what does the world need? Where is it that I can make a difference? Then work back and see what abilities you already have, and you will discover you have plenty. Then see if you can find the love for that. If you can create that love, that is entirely in your hands. Don't wait for love to happen from the sky. Begin to love the things that you know people will need and you have ability for. The paying part will happen automatically. Let that come number 4. Don't start with that, otherwise that's where all the confusion starts. So this is what our team here today have actually told us, and this is what I have learned from them, and I hope all the other listeners will listen and learn this from them. Thank you very much, all three of you, Krishna, Jatin, Divyanshu. Fantastic talk indeed, as Dr. Nyogi just mentioned. And thank you to Chandresh and to DVM for also joining in.
And thank you all
Dr. Nyogi for thank you, Dr. Nyogi, for arranging this series of talks.
Thanks to all the participants. They attended all the 3 talks, many of them. So many, many thanks to all of them.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Once
Hope
again.
to see you all again.
See you again. Yeah.
Yes, to all of you.
Thank you, Krishna Teja.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
And I'm from Jaipur, so pretty soon I would be there. And
very nice, very nice.
Yes.
Thank you, Jatin. Thank you.
We might not recognize each other, Jatin, because both of us will be severely masked. So.
And thank you, Abhay, for coordinating.
Be sure to send a message for that.
Stay well, keep well, keep happy, keep smiling.
Thanks, Abhay, for coordinating.
Thank you so much, Abhay.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful talk. It was really null.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Good night.